Welcome in. Today we're jumping right into a conflict that has spiraled way, way beyond its original borders, expanding in a way that, frankly, no one really saw coming.
This quote right here really captures the heart of the crisis, doesn't it? What was supposed to be a calculated, targeted strike has just morphed into something wild, unpredictable, and a whole lot more dangerous. So the big question is, how did we even get here? Well, according to the analysis we're digging into, it all comes down to a massive strategic blunder, a complete misunderstanding of the opponent. The initial game plan seemed simple enough, at least on paper. It was what you'd call a decapitation strike. The whole idea was you take out the top leadership and the entire system just crumbles. But, well, that's not at all what happened. Yeah, instead of collapsing, the command structure held strong. Their counterattack strategy didn't miss a beat. It turns out the planners had totally overlooked a crucial variable in their whole equation.
And this missing piece of the puzzle is what our source material calls the X factor. And just to be clear, this has nothing to do with weapons or technology. It's about something much, much deeper.
Okay, so here's the absolute key. When your opponent is operating from a mindset where dying for the cause isn't a failure, but is actually seen as the ultimate victory, well, all the conventional rules of war just go right out the window. The fear of death, which is usually primary weapon in any conflict, suddenly becomes useless.
Think about this powerful analogy for a second. A normal military operation always has an entry plan and an exit plan. But for someone who has zero intention of exiting, the entire strategic dynamic just flips on its head. This was the dangerous, unpredictable reality that was completely overlooked.
Now, this miscalculation didn't just have military consequences. Oh no. It kicked off a chain reaction that spread the conflict from the battlefield and straight into the world's economic lifelines. Suddenly, the war wasn't contained anymore. Iran basically declared that any country that was hosting U.S. bases was now a potential target. And just like that, major global travel hubs like Dubai and Doha, and absolutely critical energy infrastructure like Saudi oil refineries were right in the crosshairs.
And you've got to think about the real-world impact of that. If Dubai's airport closes for even one day, that's an insane financial loss. Any disruption to oil supplies makes prices skyrocket. It creates chaos in the stock markets and just eats away at global economic confidence. The conflict was now officially everyone's problem.
And to really get your head around the global stakes, get this. 80% of China's oil has to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. So when you threaten to close that narrow channel, you're turning a regional fight into a direct economic threat to a global superpower.
So with the economic and military stakes this high, the world couldn't just sit on the sidelines anymore. The conflict started forcing nations to show their cards, creating this incredibly complex web of alliances and pressures.
This really created a lot of uncertainty on one side of the conflict. The source points to Donald Trump's objectives, which just seemed to keep changing. At first was the goal regime change. Then it was about stopping a nuclear program. Then it was about ending their ballistic missile capabilities. That lack of clarity just created a ton of confusion about what the endgame was even supposed to be.
Meanwhile, Iran's counterattacks were proving to be a lot more effective than many people had expected. We started seeing reports, especially from non-Western sources, suggesting their missiles actually got through defense systems and hit some pretty significant targets, including, according to one report, near Netanyahu's compound. The whole narrative of a one-sided fight was starting to fall apart.
This brings up a really fascinating question. The USS Abraham Lincoln, this massive U.S. aircraft carrier, was reportedly moved further away from the immediate area. Some saw that as a tactical retreat. Did it suggest they were recalculating the risk? Was it a sign that the threat was a lot more credible than they first thought?
And just look at how many different players are now tangled up in this. You've got China, with its economic lifeline on the line. Russia, a key geopolitical ally to Iran. You've got internal dissent in the U.S. from Democrats who are questioning the whole escalation. Arab nations are stuck between their alliance with the U.S. and the devastating economic risk of a wider war. And then other Islamic nations like Pakistan are feeling the pressure to take a stand. The geopolitical chessboard here is just incredibly complicated.
So, where is all of this going? The analysis suggests that this constant escalation has pushed the world to a really terrifying precipice, a point where we're no longer just talking about a regional war.
And this is the fear, right? When you have a major power led by a figure maybe driven by ego, facing an opponent they totally miscalculated, and you have the potential for superpowers like Russia and China to get dragged in, well, that's when people start talking about prophecies and end-of-time scenarios. The conversation has gone global, and frankly, it's gone existential.
And let's be absolutely clear about what's at stake. The source makes a chilling comparison. The atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which we all think of as the ultimate horror, are described as a mere child's toy compared to the power of today's modern nuclear arsenals. The potential for devastation it's almost unimaginable.
So we're left not with an answer, but with a question that comes from the source material itself. In the face of such overwhelming global fear, where do we as individuals find the strength to prepare for whatever might come next? It's a heavy question for sure, but it's one worth pondering.